Welcome back to another video. In this video, Ryan and I are going to go over something that we get asked a lot about, which is what niche should I start my recruitment agency in? And what are the popular ones out there? Before we get into it, Ryan, what are your thoughts about just niches in general? Why is this important for recruiters?
Yeah, great question. So niching down is super important because it's all about being as efficient as possible, right? And if you have your own niche or a sub niche, the work you do today, the candidates you talk to today, you can use them for weeks and months down the line. You build these connections once, maintain those relationships, and they continue to, be fruitful for you down the line. Whereas if you don't niche, you stay very general. One day you're working on software engineers, the next day you're working on sales folks, but it's almost like the time you spent with software engineers is wasted. So the more you can niche down and find your specific market, the better success you're going to have in the long term.
It's really for the purpose to help get your agency off the ground easier, right? You can totally start a generalist agency. Like I have no problems doing that. But in 2024, moving onward with things getting a lot more competitive with just like technology and AI and just a lot more noise out there on social media or online, it's really, really important to be able to differentiate yourself from others. And the easiest way is niche down, right? So there's way too many niches that you can choose. It's literally uncapped of what you can choose, right? But we're going to go over some of the most common ones, one of the most popular ones. By all means, this is not an exhaustive list. Don't use this as the be all end all, but maybe it can be like a stepping stone to help you point yourself in the right direction if that's something that you want to do. So you want to go ahead and get started, Ryan? What do you think?
Let's do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So the first one, IT and software development, which will always remain soft in my heart. This is and remains to be one of my primary markets as a recruiter, but there's a bunch of reasons why like this continues to become, one of the popular niches out there. So Ryan, why don't you take it away? Like what are some of the highlights here?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share more on this. So firstly, as you can see, it's just the demand is so high, especially for the past, 20, 25 years, tech has been booming and it looks like it will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. And so you always want to find a niche that not only looks good today, but looks like it will continue to be good into the future as well. And then, it goes without saying too, in tech, they pay well or they tend to pay well generally. And so when we're thinking about recruiters and the fees we get normally are a percentage of our candidate's base salary. The higher the base salary, the higher your placement fee is going to be. So that's another big boon for recruiters as well as in tech.
And why don't we go into like specialization opportunities, right? So
are you struggling with getting responses from clients? Are you an established recruiter who is struggling to break six figures and beyond? Are you looking to start recruiting part-time and you don't know how? Do you feel burned out and stuck spending hours and hours each day in manual tasks like sourcing and outreaching and feeling like you have no time to actually run and grow your business? I am absolutely happy to announce that we have launched our own recruitment, educational, and coaching program to help you on your journey. We made sure that everything I've learned in the past 10 years, the tips, the strategies that really helped me build multiple seven figures of placements on my own desk with some of the best companies in the world will be included in there. We'll also be including things like how you can build an acquisition system that brings in clients every month to your agency hands-free, how you can maximize the probability of a positive close during negotiations, how you can automate and outsource your day-to-day operations so that you don't have to spend hours per day researching or sourcing, how you can figure out the new and modern way to scale your agency that minimizes risk and maximize your upside potential. And we've also included much, much more. The best thing about this is not only will you be getting amazing content, but we will also handhold you and be with you every step of the way to make sure that you are held accountable and you crush your goals. We'll also share with you our own tech stack, tools, and plugins we actually use, plus everything else we know about automation and AI to help you save time, work smarter, and not be a slave to your business. The exciting news is that we've actually rolled this out to a select few people earlier this year, and I'm excited to see them well on the way to multiple six figures, with some breaking $30,000 to $50,000 per month already. So if you're interested to be a successful recruiter that can dominate in any market conditions, make sure you click on the link below to chat with another member of our team, and we're happy to chat with you to see if we can help you out. Make sure you jump on this really quickly. See you on the other side.
IT, a lot of higher salaries, which is better for us as recruiters.
Awesome. And why don't we go into like specialization opportunities, right? So you can niche within software development, but you can also niche down within a niche. And that's something that we would always recommend our own students do. But if you're looking to start your own agency, you should absolutely do that as much as possible. But what are some of the sub niches that you can do? Maybe it's DevOps, maybe it's AI specialists, maybe it's specific SaaS sales, maybe tech support that allows agencies to build deep expertise and stand out in a competitive market, or niche down even more, like what kind of DevOps, what kind of SaaS sales, right? Instead of just software engineering, maybe it's mobile engineering. What kind of mobile engineering? Maybe a specific type of mobile engineering in New York City or in San Francisco, right? So the more that you can niche down, the better that you can create a persona that you can aspire to just become the major player in that, to help you get new clients coming into the door, and also to give off that perception of just greater credibility, and you kind of know your thing and you have a great track record, further like spinning that wheel to give clients feeling that you know what you're doing and you guys are specialized. Lastly, again, remote work growth. This is something that we've seen a lot of ever since 2020. It's essentially accelerated. The rise of remote work has significantly broadened the talent pool globally, enabling agencies to place candidates across borders. Typically before this, remote work did exist, but now it's prevalent. The biggest shift when it comes to recruitment is, instead of, let's say, having a client in New York, really only looking within the New York talent pool or the greater surrounding states, a lot of startups are now open, or companies are now open to targeting folks across the country, maybe even globally. So your targeting goes well beyond, the tri-state area. You can focus around the US, or maybe even across the USA borders, going into Europe or Canada or Asia, just really giving you access to the best out there, which makes it more challenging because it's more work, but gives companies and you more access to some of the best talent in the world, which is really exciting.
Exactly.
Is there anything else you want to add, Ryan, just as a last thoughts to IT and software development?
No, I feel good. I know I will say it is, depending on what sub niche you do, IT and software and tech can be a pretty competitive market, but it's competitive because it's good. It's a good market. High salaries, high demand, high specialization. So that's why. So definitely something to keep in mind. But overall, I'm a big fan of tech and IT as a recruiting niche.
And guys, before we get any further, I do want to state competition and being competitive is okay, right? That means there's a lot of activity, there's transactions happening, the market's healthy, and not everyone you're competing with actually knows what they're doing, right? Which gives you an opportunity to be awesome in your niche, or your niche within a niche within a niche within a niche, right? So don't be afraid of competition. When Ryan and I, when we work on new clients, we already assume they're working with at least 2 or 3 other recruiters, but we know the value and the results that we can bring. That doesn't stop us. That doesn't scare us at all. And that shouldn't scare you. So hope you guys keep that in mind. Now, next one, healthcare. Man, I can go on and on and on about healthcare. Let me just cover the top 2 points here. And then we can, of course, happy to ask Ryan to talk about the rest. So number 1, healthcare, consistent demand. It's one of those industries where historically it's always had demand. But I would say the past 3 to 5 years, it's in a tough place where they really are desperate for good talent, right? It's also recession resistant due to its essential nature, aging population, ongoing demand from medical professionals, ensure a steady flow of hiring needs. The demand's just not going to stop. But, if you're going to, choose to recruit in healthcare, you got your work cut out for you. You're going to have to really hard to go out there and find really good talent. Ryan and I, we have experience doing therapists and doctors and nurses. And Ryan, do you have PTSD from those times? What are your thoughts with recruiting in healthcare?
We've done it, but I don't miss it. I'm not itching to go back anytime soon. It's definitely doable, but as you said, it does have this reputation for being one of the harder industries to recruit in, which, on its face may sound like a negative, but if you think about it on the flip side, if it's a harder industry to do, less people are going to be doing it. So you have less competition as well, right? And so there are some pros and cons to it. But yeah, I have had some successes and some losses in healthcare, but it's, never a boring time.
So when I say you have to try harder, what does that mean, right? And so that would mean, for instance, when you reach out to candidates, you got it, your personalization, your outreach has to be on point. It could also mean, when you talk to the clients, you have to do whatever you can to get them to have an open mind, maybe to sweeten up the offer terms, right? So if they're only offering you a salary, try to get them to be okay with a sign-on bonus or a bonus or a higher salary or maybe better benefits. The more that you can do will help the candidates be more excited or have an open mind to have that conversation. A lot of times, the candidates aren't looking, or they're just paid well. It's a pain to obviously get a new job, right? And a lot of the healthcare roles are kind of the same. Working at one hospital is not going to be that different to working at another hospital, right? Or public versus private. So you had to really kind of empathize with the talent's point of view here and just be okay, if I was a talent in healthcare, what would excite me to respond, let alone even make that move or make that jump, right? So us recruiters, we are the PR machines. We are the salespeople for the clients. And so we got to do whatever we can, think outside the box and be creative to build that pipeline, to use more channels. Maybe think about job ads, maybe think about active candidates, not just passive, maybe all of the above, maybe using different, platforms, not just LinkedIn, right? Maybe go into forums or go to networking events. You really have to pull out all the stops to be everywhere, to always have those conversations happening. So going back to the slide, urgent hiring needs, a lot of these roles are urgent. They need to hire someone yesterday. And some of these roles, they could be technologists, but they can also be nurses or doctors or therapists and lab technicians. And aside from from like being time critical, they're willing to pay for these talents. And kind of like other similar spaces we're going to be talking about, the salary, oh boy, the compensation package can go significantly, especially when you're going to the nurses or the doctors or the surgeons realm. I mean, we're talking about multiple six figures, possibly $500,000 or higher, depending on the hospital, the state, et cetera, et cetera. So it really makes it an exciting space to join for a new recruiter, but with the demand and everything there, and that's not going away, but you just got to really know what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. I agree wholeheartedly. And the last thing I wanted to mention here was just the contract opportunities as well. And so within healthcare, there's a lot of systems and companies looking for direct placement, but a lot of them are also looking for, contract talent as well. And so based on what your interests are within recruiting, if you want to focus more on the contract side of things or even staffing, there is a lot more opportunity to do this in healthcare than you may get in some other industries as well. And there's some pros and cons both to direct, placement, recruiting, and staffing. There's some differences, but that's kind of not the purpose of this video here. But the point I'm trying to make is there's so many different opportunities within healthcare that can align with whatever your interests are. So if you want to do direct placement, you can do that. If you want to do staffing, you can do that. And really, because going back to Preston's first point about this being an industry that's always in demand, it's not really recession dependent. You always have that ability to find new roles that really align with what you're looking to do.
Perfect. Absolutely, Ryan. And contracting is definitely an important point, guys. It still falls underneath the recruitment umbrella. We teach you the fundamentals. You can apply that in the recruiter school to whatever business model that you want to do. Contracting, I know locums in healthcare is very, very popular, or you can do direct placements or all of the above, right? But contracting is definitely huge in healthcare. All right, next, finance. Let's talk about this. You want to kick it off, Ryan?
Yeah, of course. So finance is another one similar to healthcare in the sense of there is normally a really strong demand for folks, no matter what the market is saying, no matter what the market is doing. And so I think there's always going to be this demand for financial professionals in some capacity. And even then, when it comes to finance, it's such a broad industry where if I say I'm a finance recruiter and Preston says he's a finance recruiter, that can mean two very different things. And because there's just so many ways you can niche down, which we'll get to in just a moment, but there's always companies that are looking for finance talent because that is really one of the most crucial functions of the business. You need someone to ensure that there's money coming in and that the money coming in is more than the money going out. And so because that is such a crucial skill to have, all kinds of employers are going to be looking for these kind of folks. Whether it's your small mom and pop shop or it's your Fortune 500 company, they all need finance people or finance talent to ensure that the business is healthy for the short, medium, and long term. And that kind of goes into the next point we have on the slide here is that a lot of large employers are looking for great finance folks all the time. And that could be either banks, that could be, universities, that could be health systems, doesn't name it. You name it, there is some demand for finance professionals at these firms. And the beauty of these working with these bigger companies is they're not often hiring for one finance person, two finance people. They're looking for tons of different finance people, even within different sub niches, whether in the corporate side or in the quant side or, what you name it. There's always going to be some type of need for a financial talent in all these kind of companies, especially the larger ones. So I'll pass it back to you, Preston, to kind of give you your thoughts as well.
Yeah, the large employer is a really interesting one, and it's really exciting because when you start a business, let alone your own recruitment agency, you want to ideally aspire to get a good, healthy, diverse book of business from mid-sized companies to small startups to large enterprises. And large enterprises are exciting because you're able to break into one of those. You get so many jobs available to you, and you don't have to worry about not having enough jobs, not having enough clients to chase. And so you always try to want to target, try to get into these big companies, even though the cycle might be a little bit longer. So of course, to offset that, you want to go for the smaller companies. But it's really important to know, even with healthcare, there's a lot of larger employers, and whether it's like a VMS or portal client, it doesn't really matter. The fact is you have access to a lot of jobs, which can help you get busy immediately. And so another great, fantastic opportunity. The couple other points is there's a lot of technology in finance, which is exciting. I know it's like a legacy industry like healthcare, but even with also applying this to healthcare, there's a lot of healthcare tech companies and startups that are popping. Same thing with finance and fintech with AI and crypto and digital wallets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of ways for you to be able to niche down, and there's a lot of opportunities that you can find just in the greater finance umbrella. And then again, speaking of niches, a lot of things that you can go into from crypto to traditional finance to quant to fintech or regulatory compliance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The list really goes on. You can do your research and really just try to find something you're really excited about. But as long as it, has those high salary roles, great demand, a diverse mix of employers, you really can't go wrong. Finance, like healthcare, isn't going anywhere.
100%.
All right, sales and marketing. I'll let Ryan start this, considering that he had a sales background before coming to recruiting. So Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Your, fondness for the IT space is my fondness for the sales space. And I think sales is a super great area to recruit in because when you think about it, but every company or every organization needs someone to either sell their products, sell their services, or just tell the world what they're about, right? Salespeople are often the glue that can help these companies work together. And so because of that, everyone needs to sell some service or product. These people are so often in demand, and especially on the marketing side as well. And there are some differences, of course, between sales and marketing, but at their core, they do share a lot of similarities when it comes to what would make it an attractive recruiting niche. And another thing that is really nice about sales too is, of course, they do pay well, right? And one thing I will say about sales roles is when I say they pay well in a different sense that a healthcare or a finance role pays well. You know, some of these finance, healthcare, high paying roles, oftentimes it's a high base salary with some bonus. For a lot of sales roles, you'll have still a great compensation package, but the base salary specifically might be a little bit lower. So that's something to keep in mind. But even that said, there still are really strong salaries in sales, especially if you sub niche into like tech sales or SaaS sales. You can easily see, quote unquote entry level or beginner, medium expertise level roles with base salaries well north of the six-figure mark. So there is still a lot of high paying roles that you can work on. And again, so many of these companies are always looking for sales folks because salespeople are the people that bring in revenue to the company. And that's really the lifeblood of any company. So definitely sales and marketing are super crucial, which then leads to their high paying salaries. Also, when it comes to sales roles, it's not often you find a company that says, oh, I'm looking for one person for marketing. I'm looking for one person for sales. Because sales is the engine that builds a company, they're looking for multiple. They're looking for teams. And so oftentimes, if you can land one or two really good clients, you're not just going to be working on one role or two roles. You could be working on 5, 6, 7 plus roles. And come back to your last point in finance about that ability to have a company that gives you multiple roles. That just takes so much more stress off of you from the client side to where you can focus on filling the roles and getting paid.
The only other thing I want to add to this is, man, I just love sales, marketing, like talking to the talent. They always end up having just like great conversations, great energy, great personalities. It's always such a joy connecting with them. And I really love, again, the scalability point here, because typically if a company's looking to hire one, they're not normally just looking to hire one. And even though they might have great kind of all-in compensation, I would say compared to other roles, they could have, I think, sometimes like a relatively speaking, a smaller base salary. But if you're able to do 2, 3, 5 plus placements, easily makes up for that, right? So there are sales positions out there that pay fantastic base salaries, but for example, maybe the lower kind of sales roles might have a lower salary, which might not make it as initially attractive like legal or finance or these other niches that we're about to talk about. But boy, oh boy, they hire in volume. And if you can get 50% of those, 60, 80%, man, it's definitely worth your time.
Yeah. And another thing I'll add to that too is this might be more on the sales side than the marketing side, but some sales areas, thinking more like tech sales, B2B SaaS sales, for example, do have a reputation for people not staying in their role super, super long. So oftentimes you'll see these salespeople be in a role for 2 years, 3 years. And because these people are switching jobs more often, there's more often openings coming on. So say, for example, I chat with Preston, he's a rock star salesperson. I place him in at a company today. 2 or 3 years from now, Preston might reach out to me, be like, hey, I'm looking for a new role, and I can place him again. And so sales is really an area that does reward those long-term relationships because you can end up placing one person multiple times in their career.
Love it. Great point. Great point. All right. Moving on to the last one, which is legal. So kicking it off here goes without saying, lawyers, anyone in legal gets paid very, 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 very well, especially in corporate, like high desired avenues like M&A, corporate law, often command 6 figures, multiple 6 figures or higher. It's a very fast sliding scale that are leading to, again, significant placement fees, which makes all of us happy, right? So senior level roles like senior legal managers or general counsels, there's a lot more legal roles we're seeing even in technology role, even in smaller companies or startups. They still have fantastic salaries and just the compensation package. And again, provide even higher earning potential for recruiters too, making sure that we are continuously busy. Now, speaking of staying busy, at legal, like finance, like healthcare, always in demand, right? You got lawsuits happening all the time. No, I'm just kidding. You got law firms, you got corporations, you got startups, all need legal professionals, right? This is very, very important. And the landscape, it's constantly changing. The law codes constantly maybe getting modified. And so you need a strong, and that's why there is a strong demand for have like an in-house counsel, compliance officers, paralegals at the minimum, right? So that's not really going anywhere. And lastly, obviously the global trends that we're seeing, growing industries like fintech and healthcare often require specialized legal expertise. I mean, you get to a certain point in size, almost every company will require a specialized legal expertise or kind of an expert in-house, really creating opportunities for sub-niches like data privacy law, cybersecurity, healthcare compliance, ESG, legal roles, just further adding to that fire of that, there's always demand. So what about the last point here, Ryan? Ryan?
Yeah, with law, if you need a lawyer, you need a lawyer. This is oftentimes not something that you can just kind of like push off to the sides. So for these companies who are either going through a merger, let's say, or they're being sued for some reason, there is that urgency there. Like they need lawyers. And so being that you have that urgency, that is huge as a recruiter, because one of the biggest things we battle is just apathy on the behalf of a client. Clients are like, oh, not now, later. We can reconnect next year. But for law, if you need a lawyer, you need a lawyer now. And so we see for a lot of folks and a lot of people in our network who are doing this legal recruiting, they have less of a lift to do when it comes to pitching that urgency to the clients. The clients are oftentimes coming to them. They don't have to go to the clients, right? Just because when these people need this legal support, they need to go somewhere to find it quickly. And how do you find this talent that's accurate, quick? You could talk to a recruiter.
Legal recruiting is super exciting. And at the time of the shooting, we're shooting here in mid-December, we actually have someone in the recruiter school specifically in legal recruiting. And I think he's trying to chase and surpass $800,000 in overall revenue for this year. I also personally know a lot of other recruiters in the legal space that are absolutely crushing it. So demand, everything you're looking for to get into a niche in the market, legal offers that and much, much more. Again, you'll be talking to lawyers and attorneys and legal professionals. So you just need to make sure that you are credible, you know your stuff. If you are previous experience, or just do a lot of research, because it's a little bit more, I would find a little bit more challenging talking to legal professionals than designers or sales marketing professionals. They're just a lot more professional, and you just got to be crystal clear in everything that you say to kind of make sure that you come off credible, and that that you give them the ease and comfort that you're able to help them positively make a career change if needed, right? So just legal and lawyers that are on top of it, make sure you're on top of it too.
100%.
Perfect. So that brings us to the last slide. So just as a summary, so what do the best niches have? I hope that we made this clear getting to this point, but just to kind of go over some of the main important points. The first one, obviously, is you want to look in a niche that has high demand, high urgency, right? You want to see a space that has a lot of job postings, a lot of activity, a lot of companies hiring, a lot of people getting jobs, a strong, consistent need throughout the year that's not cyclical on the summertime or whatever season it's in. It's a strong, consistent need for fantastic professionals in your niche. It just ensures a steady stream of job openings, making it easier to place candidates, and making sure that you're just less stressed on like not being able to find more businesses because you're going through a lull of some kind, right? Industries specifically with time-sensitive needs like healthcare, legal, or sales, they often pay a premium for agencies that can move quickly, that are really good at their job. Second thing, again, high salaries, right? Roles with higher salaries lead to larger placement fees, as these are often calculated as a percentage of the candidate's annual base salary. Our best practice is, again, you typically want to choose a salary that is minimum $100,000 or higher. It's up to you how close you want to follow this. We pick up roles that are 70, 80. Typically, like we talked about in the sales marketing slide, if they're hiring in volume, it still makes sense for us to pick it up, right? Or maybe it's like your first position with your first client, and you're willing to be flexible in the beginning just to show them how good you are. And then after that, you can, of course, pick up or advocate for higher roles. So it really depends on the context, your situation, what you're looking for. But typically, we want to make sure that if you are a recruiter as a side hustle, if you're doing this full time at your own full desk or agency, we want to make sure if you're going to go out there and work your hardest, that you deserve that fee, or to maximize that fee as much as possible. What about the next point, Ryan?
Yeah, 100%. And so I think another theme that we've been seeing from the industries that we reviewed on what makes them strong is the ability to get very specific, to very niche down, and niche down not only in specific industries, going from sales to tech sales to software sales, but also to niche down in specific skill sets. Like you said about, am I hiring a software engineer or am I hiring a mobile developer? What kind of mobile developer? Things like that. The more you're able to just focus in on, this is exactly who I'm recruiting, this is the value I bring, the more you're going to build up your reputation in that industry so you can become that go-to person. But also, and if you keep staying on with this specific niche that you have, that's going to pay you down the line because you already talked to all these candidates. So when you have a new role, you can just send them immediately. So being able to specialize in not only the skill set of the people that you recruit, but also the niche and the general industry that you recruit in will help you just blow up your business and help you just crush it year over year over year. And I think another thing that come back to your first point in the slide, Preston, about the high demand or a high urgency industry is one that is continuing to grow. We want to recruit industries where we're seeing, there's 5% year over year growth in XYZ space. There's 7% growth year over year, yada, yada, yada. We want to ensure that we're not in a good industry today, but ensure that we're in a good industry for today into the foreseeable future as well. So, right now, as we're recording this, everything AI is going crazy. And so if you wanted to sub-niche within something within AI, you can feel good that, okay, this seems to to be on a really strong track record to have a lot of open roles, a lot of hiring, a lot of M&A activity into the foreseeable future, which is huge. But I think that also kind of plays into when you think about the future, you have to think about what is the best type of employer to work with. Do I work most with small businesses, medium-sized businesses, large businesses, maybe all three, right? And so that's something you want to keep in mind too, is not only what kind of niche, what kind of industry, what kind of roles am I recruiting, but also what are the kind of companies that I'm recruiting to as well, right? Do you want to focus on a certain size, a certain segment, a certain location as well? Knowing all these things, being able to narrow in is going to help you just become known as the best recruiter for your specific niche, with your specific skill set in your specific area to then just dominate that given market.
Well, there you have it, guys. I hope that this video helps you, point you in the right direction, give you some ideas, and even just the criteria on what you should look out for when thinking about picking a niche. Again, you can not pick a niche and start an agency. We highly recommend it. There's a lot more to picking a niche than obviously what we talked about here, and there's a way more niches that you can pick than what we included in this slide. But to maximize your chance of success and what we're seeing in the landscape moving forward, it's important to have a niche. It's important to have a niche of a niche of a niche of a niche. This is exactly what we teach within the recruiter school with the students who are absolutely crushing it. But again, I hope that whether you pick finance or healthcare or legal, drill down, try to find the sweet spot of a good handful of positions and roles that you're excited about, that you are confident to deliver and fulfill for clients. And you go out there and you start developing amazing relationships with employers of all sizes in your niche. And we honestly wish you nothing more but success. So this is constantly one of the most popular questions that we get asked. And it's really important that if you're going to start a side hustle or your business, do it properly, decide on a niche, take your time, do your research, try to see the activity of the job postings and the activity and the health of the market. But we also hope that obviously, some of the points that we've shared here could help you, especially if you do have any outstanding questions. But Ryan, any last thoughts of niches in general?
I'm all good. As you had said there, niche. The more granular you can get, the more successful you'll be.
Perfect. Well, with that said, guys, if you want to see more videos with Ryan and I, please comment down below any topics that you want us to talk about, and we're happy to share our own thoughts. But we honestly hope that this helps you, gives you value, and gives you that inspiration, motivation to pick a niche and go out there and start building a business that you are very, very proud of. So Ryan, thank you so much again for having time.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
And appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.